morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Excellent. Just to check if everyone's awake before I begin with the speech today. So, we're good to start? Excellent. So, good morning, everyone. Today, I'm here to talk to you about leadership. And surprisingly, the only qualification that I have in leadership is that I'm the admin of 17 WhatsApp groups, 15 of which don't even work. But jokes apart, since a very young age, I've been fortunate to get an opportunity to be leader in various organizations that I've been a part of. And today I'm going to speak about 3 of my experiences which made me learn more about leadership. Firstly, I will be speaking about my college days. So I'm an engineer by education, and I was the general secretary of my college in Mumbai. What do you mean by that? My college held the record of having the maximum number of student bodies in Mumbai. We had 18 different student bodies, each of which used to organize 3 events a year. Just like how TED is an event that's happening here, we used to have 54 such events happening throughout a year. I was the student head of all these events. I was supposed to take care of an event taking place every alternate day in my college. Secondly, during my college days, I also started volunteering with one organization called IIMUN. Back then, it was just a one-off event that used to take place in Mumbai, where we used to try to promote the concept of Model United Nations in India. I'm talking about a decade ago, 2011. And that time, this concept was not that famous, and we were trying to popularize it. As a one-off event, we started off in Mumbai, and we were able to scale it up to create a full-fledged organization out of it, which is now present in 220 cities in India and 35 countries globally, working with 7,500 schools. I was the senior vice president there. And the third experience that I'll be talking about is my current experience of being the co-founder and CEO of GyanSthan. GyanSthan is an organization which is India's quickest growing and one of the largest skill development organization. What we've done here is that we've tried to bring together celebrities from different fields to create programs which will help you students grow up to be ready for the jobs of tomorrow. And we are working with almost 250 odd institutions in India doing so. What I'm going to do today is that rather than just speak about leadership from a very theoretical point of view, I felt rather I would like to share certain instances from my experience of being a leader in these different organizations that helped me learn a few things about leadership. And that's what I'd like to share with you guys today via a few examples. So the first thing that any student here sitting in the audience wishes to learn or should learn if he wishes or she wishes to become a leader is to understand the difference between a leader and a manager. Now, we often confuse ourselves when we feel that we can be leaders only if we are having a position of power. We feel that if we are a manager, if I'm the student head, if I'm the prefect, if I'm the captain, only then I'm a leader. Otherwise, I cannot be a leader. But the first thing which anyone needs to understand is that position doesn't automatically make you a leader. There's a huge difference between being a manager and being a leader. It's a very nice saying that says that when I speak with a manager, I feel the person's very important. When I speak with the leader, I feel very important as a person. Because leader is someone who's a people's person. How did I learn that? I'll give you an instance about that. So remember I spoke to you about being the general secretary of my college. We had 54 different events. So there were 18 different student bodies, each of which had approximately 10 to 50 odd students, volunteers in them. I used to lead all of them in those various events. But surprisingly, I wasn't elected to my position by my peers. Rather, I was selected by the heads of my college. Why? Because the head of my college wanted a spokesperson on behalf of him in the student body. And he thought I'll be able to manage things really well. So out of those 54 events, my job was honestly just to make sure to be an eye on behalf of my college authorities. I used to make sure that things don't go wrong, report things to the authorities if anything goes wrong, and make sure that I'm like a bridge between the students and the management. Thus, I never realized that I was only being a manager and never a leader, which I was supposed to be in that position. But that changed during one instance. So my college was having our biggest event of the year, which was the cultural event. And we used to do it with a lot of fanfare because we used to call certain Bollywood celebrities to come and sing, certain famous DJs to come and perform, famous luminaries, movie actors would come to promote their movies. It was a huge affair in Mumbai. And to announce the event as well, we used to have a specific day dedicated to it. So we used to have a traditional day when people used to be traditionally dressed. There used to be dhols and people used to do bhangra, and we used to announce a lineup of which are the guests who are going to be there in the event and the dates of the event. Now, the year I was General Secretary, on the day of the traditional day, the announcement day, I'm, by the way, an engineer by education. Why is it important to understand this? Is because what happened next. On the traditional day, certain students became over-enthusiastic. And they ended up bringing certain items to college which are not supposed to be there, certain kind of intoxications, to enjoy the bhangra even better. Now, this was, of course, against the policy of the college, and when the principal came to know about the fact that there were certain students who had alcohol in college premises and were creating a lot of chaos and indiscipline in the premises, he got very infuriated. He called me and he said, Aman, this team is incapable of handling an event of this magnitude. We are not going to go forward with it in the way it's planned. We won't have a single outdoor event. So there'll be no promotions, no performances, only classroom events will take place this year. Now, for the first time, I felt really, really bad for the team that had worked 6 months towards getting these amazing celebrities to come to the college, getting a lot of funds to arrange for these people to come as well, and organizing an event in which almost 1,000 students from Mumbai were going to come and participate. So I had a choice in front of me. To continue being a manager that I had been till then, and just say, yes, sir, I will do exactly what you've said, or for the first time, choose to be a leader. And that's what I chose. I told my college authorities, I take complete responsibility for whatever's going to happen on the days of the events. I'll be in charge of the security apparatus myself. Now, because I had a decent track record in front of these people, they agreed to my request. And honestly, for 3 days, I was college's security guard, watchman. I was checking, frisking every individual who was entering the premises. But what happened because of that is that every person who was involved with that event first time saw that I'm their person. I'm a leader who they should follow. And everyone rallied around me to make sure that every responsibility given to them was performed to the optimum. And that year we happened to get the award for the best festival in Mumbai for the hard work that we did that year. All of this happened because I understood a big difference between being a manager and a leader. And I hope this story helped you understand the same as well. Did it? What one needs to understand is that you don't need to be in a position of power to be a leader. And that brings me to my second point. What I was telling you, that we often mistake that if we are in a position of power, we are leaders, otherwise we can't be leaders. I understood this with my second experience, the one I spoke about, IIMUN. So when I joined the organization, I was just a mere volunteer. I was put in a part of a team of 10, which was supposed to do celebrity management, invite guests to come for the opening ceremony of the event. The previous year, which was the first year of that event, we had 2 luminaries who had come, 1 chief guest, 1 guest of honor. We were told, try to match it at least. And we were working towards it by inviting politicians, actors, actresses, diplomats, sports personalities, so on and so forth, entrepreneurs, business heads. But what happened was, a month before the event, for whatsoever reason, the head of our department had to discontinue with the organization, which left the entire team in turmoil because that was the person responsible for giving duties to everyone, checking if the tasks have been met or not, and be in charge and responsible for the entire process. We had no one to do so. So we as a team of 10 had 2 options. Either go back to the head of the organization, whose name was Rishabh, and tell him, Rishabh, it's impossible for us to go forward with the event right now in the way you've planned because we have no direction. Or second, try to be leaders on our own. And that's what we chose this time as well. Luckily, my mother tells me the only thing you're good at, Aman, is to talk. And I was able to rally the team in order to make sure that they were all willing to do this one thing, which was to try to be leaders of their own. We all made our own targets. We all made our own plans. We executed them to the best of our capabilities. We took each other's reports and we tried to make sure we pull an excellent event. The kind of event that we ended up pulling off, we had the person who had won the best actor and best director at Filmfare that year to come and open the event. We had a Bollywood choreographer dancing at the event. We had a Bollywood singer singing at the event. We had the mentor, the person whom my head of organization, Rishabh, used to look up to, a famous politician, an eloquent orator, to come and address the audience as a chief guest. And we even had 2 people who actually hosted IFA to come and host our event as well. The kind of results that come in when people realize they don't need to be dependent on their leader to give them direction, but rather choose to be leaders themselves. These 2 learnings, if everyone who's sitting in this room understands and tries to implement in their life, you can become an excellent leader as well. But believe me, leadership is not that easy. And a decade and a half of experience of leading different organizations have made me understand that leadership can be a very, very lonely road. There are challenges that you face which only you will have to deal with. There's no one who can help you with that. The 4 major challenges that I feel every leader has to face in order to become a good leader are, firstly, shouldering responsibility. The golden rule of being a leader is to understand that you are responsible for everything. Don't play the blame game, that this person did something wrong, that's why the event did not go off well. Or this person did something wrong, that's why the service is not at an optimum. You as a leader are responsible for everything. This rule is something that I follow in my current organization, Gyanstan, and every organization I've led before that. Every person who deals with our organization from outside the organization is told a very simple thing. If anything goes wrong, talk to Aman. Tell him what went wrong. He's the one responsible. Why? Because my team needs to be shielded from this external criticism. I should be the one who communicates to them what exactly they did wrong and how can they better themselves. Why do I do this? It's because now my team feels I'm their person. And that's why when I criticize a certain responsibility of theirs, they don't take it negatively. Rather, they try to improve themselves because they know I have already faced the flak on their behalf for their mistake. Secondly, you have to take constant decisions which will have moral and ethical dilemmas in your mind. All of you have one person in your life who you call your best friend, right? Yes? You all have one. Excellent. Now, I've never tagged anyone as a best friend, but I've had people who have been very, very, very close to me. I'm going to tell you the story of one such person. So this person was working with me when I was approximately 20 years old at IIMUN, and this person was a part of my team. Now, in IIMUN, as I told you, we grew it from 1 city to 220 cities globally and across 35 different countries. And I was in charge of this growth in India. So we had 160 events that used to take place in India, 3-day MUN conferences. 160 in a year, that means almost 3.5 a week. That's why it was impossible for me to manage everything. I had to have a very strong team who took care of things. One of the people in these teams, I won't take her name, was someone who was working with me for almost 3 years now. Became a very close friend. Someone who I would not only discuss work with, but also my personal life with, and vice versa. Such a kind soul that if I was having a bad day, she would make sure there's a cookie or a chocolate left on my desk at the end of the day to cheer me up. Was someone who used to always, for some reason, do things right. And that's why was someone who I used to consider as a very dear friend as well. Blinded by this friendship, what I realized was in order to make sure that I'm constantly appeased, this person had started hiding facts from me. There were instances when things were going wrong, events not happening properly, even finances being cooked, which were hidden by me, just so that I never feel this person's not doing the work to her optimum. I came to know about this because one such event that she was organizing in Jodhpur, we were told there are 1,000 people who are going to participate in it, because that's the average number that we used to have in each of our events. And we made all the arrangements accordingly, food, setup, kits, so on and so forth. Spent lakhs of rupees in order to make sure that happens. But when the event concluded, the people who went with her for the event told me, sir, the number weren't such, you should check. I sat down, I checked, and I saw that there was a huge discrepancy. I'm not talking about like 10%, 50%, I'm talking about almost 70 to 80% of fabricated data. Brought me a huge moral dilemma because this person had cost the organization not only financially, but also face value because people were promised an event which they were not delivered. I had two options here. One, she's a friend. Let her be. Maybe pay out of my own pocket, which was not that big a problem, and hide the entire fact, brush it under the floor. Or the second option, to call her out in front of the entire organization to set an example. Now, the only thought which came in my mind as a leader was that if I let this go, what kind of an example I'm going to set for the rest of the team when they are in a similar situation where they have to tell me hard facts about things going wrong. They will always try to hide things from me if I let this pass. And that's why I had to call her out in front of the entire organization and ask her to leave. I've never spoken to her till date. It's a cost that I live with. Which brings me to the next point. You have to always live with your decision. You can't always take the right decision. You can't always do good. But try to have the right intentions at least. The last thing which I would like to share with you, so the crowning jewel of my experience with IIMUN was that we ended up hosting an event inside the United Nations headquarters in New York. So imagine a simulation of MUN, a simulation of United Nations happening in the actual UN. First time an Indian organization was able to do this, and we got 1,000 students to go to the United Nations and speak about India becoming the next global power. A very, very, very happy time for us. While we were working towards this event, we had no support from the Indian government. So we were able to make sure that not the Indian government, but rather the United Nations and governments all across the globe support us to allow us to do this event. You have to get permission from 193 countries to say, yes, you can use that General Assembly Hall to be able to do so. So we did all of that, and not only that, we were able to make sure that they gave us scholarships and concessions as well. So we were going to take 1,000 students to US at a cost which was unbelievable. You'll spend at least 2 times of that amount if you try to go for a trip to US. So it was an unbelievable event, and that's why everyone wanted to be a part of it. And we were inviting schools from all across India. And I would like to say this, that I have a lot of respect for academicians and teachers because I feel there's no more nobler profession than being a teacher. And 99.9% of teachers and heads of schools that I've met have been altruistic human beings who think about their students before themselves. And that's why I love working with them, and that's why I'm in this field. But there are always some bad apples in any field that you're a part of. And I came across one during this one instance. So while I was reaching out to schools, one of the top institutions in Mumbai, which I won't name, and the person I won't name, I reached out to this individual, the head of that school, saying, why don't you send students for this amazing event? The head of the school thought, how will my parents pay lakhs of rupees to send their students for such an event? And they've never even participated in MUN before. No one's going to participate. But at least let's give the students an opportunity. Let's put it in front of them so that I can, at the end of the year, tell the management, see, this is the opportunity that I got. So what the head of the school did was that the junior most teacher was there in the school was appointed as the head of the event, saying you are the one responsible for informing students about this. But the principal never thought that the junior most teacher can also become the future head of the school because she had that knack. She understood the importance of the event. She understood what benefits students will have by participating in it. She rallied the students, rallied the parents, and ended up creating a delegation which was the largest that we had seen. I was amazed because I did not expect that as well, because this teacher was like an assistant teacher, not even a regular teacher. When this happened, I was very, very happy. Parents had actually, even half of them had handed over their checks to the school as well, saying they want to participate in this event. But then all this information went to the head of the school, who was still now thinking nothing's happening about it. But of course, before any payment is made to the vendor, the head of the school has to be informed. Now, when the head of the school saw such a huge payment is going to this vendor, she thought there should be some personal benefit for her out of this entire transaction. So she calls me up and says, Aman, 20% of the entire amount that you've collected should go into my account. Plus, you have to ask all the parents to pay 10% extra in order to make sure that this event goes through. Now remember, Aman was an NPO, a non-profit organization. We were doing it at a highly, highly, highly subsidized cost. So 20% was impossible on our part. Plus, it was completely unethical to ask those parents who've already agreed to a certain amount that we've told them to increase suddenly, tens of thousands of rupees. I was 19 years old, I was infuriated because I did not understand business back then. What I understood was passion. And this was against the values that I held. So I wrote an email to the trustee of that school saying, this is what's happening in your school, how can you allow something like that? I never heard back from the trustee. The only communication that I got was that this school is not going to go forward with the event, and the principal is not going to communicate with us anymore. But sadly, in this entire process, the teacher, the junior teacher who actually worked so hard, was relieved from her duties, was actually fired. A decision that I had to live with. She was a mother of two, the sole bread earner from a school, from a family. A decision that I had to live with, but luckily, since I said the remaining 99.9% of people are so nice in the education field, I was able to find her some other job at another place, and now she's happily on the same trajectory that she was in her corporate life. And lastly, it's extremely difficult to be a leader because you have to make a lot of personal sacrifices. When I was in college, my day used to start at 8 a.m. in the morning, end at 11. College, IMUN, studying, so on and so forth. Every weekend, I used to be in some other city organizing an event on behalf of IMUN. I missed my friends' birthdays. I missed going for movies. I missed going for dates. I even broke up with the girlfriend that I was dating back then, a beautiful human being. And I used to always wonder, why am I doing this? But the only answer coming from within was, it will help you in the future. And honestly, it did. At my age, what most of my peers have not been able to do is something which I was able to achieve by going to the UN and delivering a speech, visiting the world, being able to give a TED talk today, and also recently marrying an equally beautiful human being. Rather, it's going to get recorded, right? A prettier and better human being. So yes, leadership is indeed a very lonely road. But I would suggest every student sitting in the audience should walk this path at least once in their life. Thank you very much. Thank you. And on that note, I would like to thank the Assam Valley School, the headmaster, the entire management of the school for giving us this opportunity. Daniel, sir, for being an amazing host and an amazing organizer for this event as well. And all you students who've been working so hard in order to make sure this event goes up properly. Thank you so much. Have a nice day, everyone.